what it do, y'all? I'm your host, Will. Welcome to Fandom Frequency, where we get into the entire multiverse of pop culture, whether that's comic book movies, anime, every now and again, you know what I mean? We cover music a lot on the channel, all types of pop culture topics, so make sure you're clicking on the buttons below the video if you're digging the vibe. But we're back again with another weekly recap. That's right, baby. X-Men 97, episode 5, titled Remember It, and we are certainly going to remember this episode because this was an incredible episode, hands down. Really started off light, and I figured with the description of the X-Men or part of the team going to Genosha was going to be a huge deal. Genosha plays a huge role in the comics. It is a very pivotal location in the X-Men lore ever since somewhere in the Uncanny X-Men Chris Claremont run around 240 something, 250 something. Correct me if I'm wrong, but around that time of that era. So it plays a big deal since then and has played a big, huge role in pivotal storylines like Avengers vs. X-Men, other things like that. So it came to play for sure this week, man. We finally got the return of Nightcrawler. We got to see Cable once again, Madeline Pryor, the Hellfire Club, which is why I got the shirt on right now. Hell yeah, we're gonna be on the nose around here. But yeah, man. So you got a ton of cool cameos, some really crazy, devastating stuff going on there in the third act of the episode. But getting into my overall thoughts, of course, before we recap all the stuff, almost scene for scene, beat for beat. I love this episode, as I already said. And one thing about this episode that I think was great was it was able to start off a little more lighthearted, kind of introduce you and get you used to kind of this location if it's been a while since you've watched the original X-Men 90 show, or if you never watched the X-Men 90 show, any movies or read any comics, this kind of gets you into what this place is about, what the whole thing is. It's kind of like a mutant haven, if you will, where they can go and be on their own and live in peace and harmony, so to speak, and get away from all the pressures and the negative side of society out there in all the different countries around the world. But luckily, now they're going to be accepted as part of the rest of the world and are getting inducted into being one of the members of the UN, which is the big celebration that Rogue, Gambit, Magneto as the de facto leader, of course, now. And am I missing anybody? No, I think it was just them. But yeah, they just went over there to go celebrate the big to-do in Genosha. Magneto obviously has a lot of ties to Genosha. Him and Rogue, as we find out a little bit later in the episode, have been there. So all that stuff really plays well in this episode. And I love the way that they just introduce you to that place and the way that they're able to develop the characters. And even though there's obviously some soap opera-ass type stuff going on, I really, really dug how they were building on the relationships of and the love story of Rogue and Gambit, and getting into the whole complication with her and Magneto's relationship when she was living there or in the Savage Lands or whatever. I mean, in Genosha and everything like that, or in the Savage Lands. I can't quite remember where that was, but I think they were implying that she was in Genosha. So that whole thing and that whole element from the comic books that they're pulling straight into this series, I thought was super awesome, really, really cool. And yeah, really played well, man. I really, really dug that. And everything going on with Rogue this episode, I thought they really let that voice actress come to shine. I'll have to get her name on the screen, but I thought she did a phenomenal job with the character coming back once again, of course, through all the previous 4 episodes. But in this one, where she gets to take center stage, was really awesome. And that's the one element about TV shows, and especially shows like this, where they can really take their time, in a sense, and at least with each different episode and different episodes, you can get time to spend time with these different characters and all the members of the X-Men. So that way you're getting a more adjusted idea to these guys, and you're getting a more connected to the characters and all that. So they're definitely doing a great job with that here, letting Gambit get a little more shine, and his jealousy between Rogue and Rogue and Magneto and everything like that was very interesting and funny to see. And then getting to see the return of Nightcrawler was awesome and all that stuff. Love that. Getting to see the way that they tied in Cable and all that stuff, I thought was really, really awesome. The way they just set off the whole Sentinel attack at the end there, where shit just hits the fan, was great. And the whole way they did the action scenes and the animation obviously has been phenomenal through the whole show. But the way they were able to bring these action scenes to life was phenomenal, and you really felt every hit, every laser blast. You really were on the edge of your seat, and you felt the stakes in this thing. Like I don't remember feeling like that, at least watching the X-Men 90 show when I was a kid. Like it just always felt like well, I mean, maybe at times, but it just felt like they were gonna win at the end of the day. And here was like, damn, like shit's getting real. And people are getting blasted and killed off like left and right. Like they were getting hella casualties up in this thing. And it even seemingly appeared that Nightcrawler died for a second, which thank God that didn't happen. But it seemingly appears that Gambit's dead at the end of this thing. So that's devastating with the whole Superman, Death of Superman shot with him and Rogue there at the end. That was devastating as well. It appears Magneto might have got, but I don't think they did. But just the way they were framing it in the episode, so that was freaking crazy, and it was just so rad the way they were just not pulling any punches in that third act whatsoever. So the way they were just teeing everything up, getting you reintroduced to Genosha, and catching up with the X-Men over there, back with Scott, Jean, and Logan and everything. Logan over there getting some from Jean Grey, so that was bringing on that love triangle element once again with the regular cast of characters that always goes on between Scott Summers, Jean Grey, and Logan, of course, as Wolverine, Cyclops, and Marvel Girl, respectively. And that whole love triangle has always been an element of the comics, always been an element of the live action iterations and everything like that. Always been a huge element and a huge theme for those characters. So seeing them bring that forward here after we were all kind of seeing hints of that earlier on in the series really comes to play here and really mirrors what's going on with Gambit, Magneto, and Rogue very well in Genosha. So loved that. The whole way they brought Genosha back to life and really updated the effects and everything really made it come to life and really made it feel like a lived-in place. So that was awesome. And the design of that crazy mech, kaiju-sized goddamn Sentinel machine was insane. Like when Cable's running up, like, oh shit's about to go down. And I was like, damn, what's about to go down? What's he all spooked about? And now I see why. That thing is devastating. So yeah, this is a phenomenal episode. But getting into the recap portion of this thing, we pick up with the X-Men landing in Genosha, of course. The big celebrations going down for the UN. You get a whole news broadcast there in the beginning with this reporter kind of interviewing different members of the interviewing Beast and different things like that, and teeing up the footage and the coverage of the X-Men going into Genosha. You see the big statues of Magneto and Professor X right there going in as you flying into Genosha there, and that's straight out of the comics, I believe. Maybe not exactly designed verbatim, but close, like it's straight out of the comics, if I'm not mistaken. Try to find a panel of that to throw in here, but that was pretty freaking cool right there. And then we pick up with Gambit, Rogue, and Magneto, respectively, landing in Genosha and getting off the ship and everything, them getting celebrated by the X-Men and them having their funny banter back and forth and everything like that. And then you get the reintroduction of Nightcrawler, which was so fun. Love getting to see him come back in this thing. I was been waiting this whole time, so I'm glad it finally happened, and getting to see him come back and catch up with his homies and everything like that, see what he's been up to since he's been in Genosha. And I was wondering where he went, and I couldn't remember from the end of the previous 90 series what happened with Nightcrawler, where he ended up at the end of that in season 5 or whatever. So really cool to see him here, and I'm still trying to catch up on that, hopefully before the end of this thing. So yeah, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, so that was all going down, and then we also jump back over with Beast getting his interview with the news lady and him blushing and everything like that. And apparently him and that character do have a relationship in the comics as well. I actually found out from a little research. So that will be interesting to see if that comes to a head in this series at all, and if they're introducing the character for that, and if that's really teeing those things up, or just a little Easter egg type of reference for the fans that they're just going to move on from. Very interesting and very cool to see. Hopefully, Beast will get a little more love. He's actually had some cool moments in the show for sure, but hopefully he'll get a little more character development as we go through this thing. And we also see, Logan over there chopping it up with Jean Grey and all that stuff. She's trying to pick through her memories and remember what's what and all that. And then Logan comes in and everything, and then they end up having their little romantic moment and stuff. And but there's a lot of trouble and a lot of things going down between a lot of issues going on and stuff going on with Jean Grey and Scott Summers, as she feels very jealous that he's in love with both her and the clone Madeline Pryor, of course. But as he says in the episode, and as is understandable, she is the mother of his children, and he thought it was Jean for whatever fucking reason. I don't get that, but for whatever reason, he thought it was Jean, and that's the mother of his kid, and he can't just sever ties completely like that, and understandably so. After they had just sent Nathan into the future in the previous episode or whatever. So now that things are going to be timed back in, as we see later on with Cable running into things, but we won't get there quite yet because we got to pick up back in Genosha, where characters are, you get to see some cameos from like Dazzler and things like that. You get to see the Morlocks reintroduced as well. And they're making their way through Genosha and whatnot, and Gambit and Rogue are having their little having their arguments and whatnot, and and Rogue just feels a little bit alienated because she can't really physically touch him and things like that, where Magneto's electromagnetic ability allows her to do so. So that was kind of that thing, and her being back there kind of brings her back to that time where she had that brief relationship with Magneto, but really saw the darkness and the goodness inside of him, which is why she was more on board for him to be the de facto leader as opposed to a lot of the other members of the X-Men, because she can see the good qualities in him from that perspective that she only shares, since she's the only one that's engaged in that kind of relationship with Magneto at all romantically out of all the X-Men, and also the only one that's been actually friendly with him inside of the X-Men besides Professor Xavier himself, at least within this continuity, if I remember correctly. So pretty big deal there. So all that's going on, and then you got Nightcrawler teasing Gambit about, come on, man, just propose to her, marry her, man, just make that your lady, like seal the deal. But Gambit doesn't feel like he can properly provide for her and give her the life that she's looking for due to the whole awkward touch thing and many other things beyond that, just with them being superheroes and mutants in general. I'm sure there's a lot of turmoil and things going on in his mind with that. And then we get to the dinner portion of the show that leads to the gala. And when we get to the dinner part of it, where we're kind of getting reintroduced to everybody in Genosha, we get to see the Hellfire Club come back into this thing. Emma Frost and everything like that. So getting to see those characters reintroduced was really cool. Getting to see them back up in this thing. And Madeline Pryor appears to be either a member or someone that is working alongside them and is staying in Genosha herself as she was welcoming in the X-Men when they got in and everything like that, and is a big part of this dinner and gala going on. And she's still having a weird psychic connection to Jean as well, and with Scott or whatever, and that causes a whole thing with her, Madeline Pryor, mentally or telepathically connecting and communicating to Scott in a way, and Jean picking up on that, and her not being very happy about that or whatever. So she ends up storming off or whatever. And then Scott's like, "Oh, come on, man! Like, give me a break here." And then back over there in Genosha, things are progressing as normal and whatnot. And then we get the whole big argument with Gambit and Rogue, and then she goes off to go make out with Magneto at the gala in front of everybody as they have their cool little dance number and whatnot. And afterwards, that's where everything starts to hit the fan, because after they have the little dance scene and all that and everything's all hunky-dory or whatever, Cable comes running in. He's like, "Oh shit, yo, shit is going down, y'all gotta get the fuck out of here." And they're like, "What's going on, what's happening, what?" He's like, "Get the fuck out of here, trust me." And then he's like, "Oh shit, it's my mom, yo, it's good." And then they have their little moment, but he's like, "Oh no, my time machine thing's running out of time." He's like, "Fuck." He's like, he's all Huey Lewis in the news, running out of time. Fucking Paramore over here. So he gets sucked back into whatever year he's from. I can never remember. But he gets sucked back into the future. And then this fucking crazy Sentinel thing shows up and fucks up shit immediately. And just starts laying waste and wrecking shop to everything in Genosha, man. People getting taken out left and right. And then at one point, fucking Nightcrawler's got to come in with the teleportation save, because the goddamn Sentinels are targeting Magneto, and Magneto and Rogue right there. He barely pulls him out the way. Gambit is jumping into action using his kinetic energy and whatnot with the staff and all that stuff. And I gotta say, Gambit's being a straight up fucking boss in this thing, handling business. Let me tell you, this is some of the coolest Gambit action I've seen in a long time, maybe ever. In general, it's freaking awesome. I love how they're just upping the ante with these action scenes. But anyway, getting back to it. And it seems like Nightcrawler might be dead, but then Gambit comes in, takes his vitals, and he's like, all right, luckily he's still breathing, but dude's going to be knocked the fuck out for a while. So he's out of the equation, which really puts him at a disadvantage with him being able to teleport, because he can get a lot of people and save a lot of people and get out the way. Much harder for them to hit him. But he wasn't able to get out of the way in time, and like I said, the Sentinel Kaiju fucking Metroid thing, Gundam thing, is crazy. It's got 3 heads. It's shooting crazy ass lasers at everybody. Even Gambit, Rogue gets blasted pretty good at one point. And then Magneto's coming in to try to use his freaking power of magnetism, his mastery of magnetism, if you will, to try to take these motherfuckers out. But even he's struggling with it. These things are hard to take out for sure. And they're dropping off all these like mini or the regular size Sentinels, but kind of janky still. So they're able to kind of take them out a little bit more easier, but they're still providing a lot of a distraction and a lot of extra carnage in there at the same time. So it's pretty insane, man. But like I said earlier, the action is so well done. You're just so sucked into the moment. You're just like, oh shit, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? Oh no, come on, Gambit, come on, Rogue, get him. Like you're just like, oh man, like I was so sucked into it. It's so well done, man. So well done. And then you get to the big moment where Magneto thinks he's got an advantage on the Sentinel machine, but he doesn't. Gets blasted to freaking Kingdom Come, and then Rogue's coming in to try to save everything, but she can't really get through on it either. And then Gambit tries to come in with a big save to save the day, gets himself stabbed with this rod by the Sentinel mech thing, and then he shoots all this kinetic energy back into it that it's dispersing out, and he ends up blowing up the machine for the most part, but it wasn't enough to get the job done, and ends up blasting the fuck out of this guy, and it looks like Gambit might be dead because and Magneto as well, because the monster thing the Sentinel thing, my bad, blasted the hell out of Magneto when he was trying to cover himself, trying to cover things up, and he ended up actually covering up Rogue and them so they wouldn't get involved in it, and he ended up kind of somewhat sacrificing himself potentially to try to get them out of there and defeat this thing once and for all, but it doesn't work. It keeps living. Gambit does what I just described, and then that isn't even enough because then it damn near kills him, and they end up getting the win for the moment, it seems like, and take this thing out. But he's seemingly dead, man. So, because Rogue can't feel him. Like, she can literally touch him and doesn't feel anything. So I'm like, oh, shit. Like, is Gambit legit dead in this thing? I don't know. Because out of all the characters that they seemingly might have got killed between, like, Nightcrawler, Magneto, and Gambit, his seems the most concrete. Like, he might have got taken out, and he did have the X-Men looking on at all the carnage going on, and they're just like, oh, no, and Scott's like, how many, man? Like, what the fuck happened? Like, how many casualties are there? Like, what's going down right now? And the X-Men have to look on from back at the Institute in the mansion, and they can't do anything about it. It's happening way on some other continent, on another part of the world. There's no way for them to get there because they took the Black Jet to get the Blackbird to get there. So they can't even fly there, I don't think. So I'm like, damn, dude, like that is devastating. Maybe the whole team should have won. I don't know. But it was like, damn, what are they going to do now? So between Logan over there getting some and everyone else getting devastated by what's going down, it's going to be a very interesting episode 7 when we pick things back up, because next week, episode 6 is going to be Life Death Part 2. So we're going to be sticking with the Storm and Strife storyline, or Forge, sorry, not Strife, different character. With the Storm and Forge storyline going on, picking up from that big cliffhanger in episode 5, Life Death Part 1 / Motendo or whatever. So yeah, episode 5, remember it. I will always remember it. This is one of the raddest animated episodes ever. One of the best X-Men animated episodes ever. Awesome stuff. Might be my favorite episode of the season. Between this and episode 2, man, dude, like episodes episode 2, 5, and 3, man, just fire. I love it. And episode 1, don't get me wrong, to me, my X-Men was awesome. So yeah, I've been loving it. It just keeps getting better and better, it seems like. But let me know what you think about this episode down below in the comment section. I love discussing this X-Men goodness with y'all. And thank you so much for all the love you've been showing to it. Really appreciate all the love and all the support coming into the channel lately. This is just something I love doing for fun. I just love getting out there, doing this thing, and just pushing my creativity and doing something different that feels fulfilling based off things that I'm already passionate about, and just seeing where we can take this thing. So thanks for being a part of it. Thank you for sticking through to the end if you're seeing me even have this whole diatribe right now. Thank you so much for checking this out. We're going to have that X-Men 97 Episode 6 Life Death Part 2 recap and review next week, by next Wednesday, Thursday, the latest. So make sure you're checking all that out. We got a lot of cool content here on the channel. I'll have some card up there so you guys can click on that and check out some stuff. But make sure you stick around, stay tuned, don't sleep. Much love. Catch you on the next one. Peace.